What's happening, friends? Welcome back for another episode of the Chamber Podcast. My name is Rob Johnson, and joining me in studio is three very official representatives from Key Bank. Welcome in, everybody.
Thank you.
And just real quick before we do introductions, except for Dave, this is everyone's first podcast, both of yours first time. Nervousness level, 1 to 10, where are we at?
Probably 8.
100.
All right, very good.
7.
All right, well, I'm going to check back in at the end of the show. We'll see if we can get those numbers down just a little bit. We'll see if we can do for those nervousness numbers what the Fed can't do for inflation.
There you go.
How's that sound?
We'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Very good. So let's just go around the horn, introduce yourselves to the listeners. So again, y'all are from Key Bank. So Dave is the president of Michigan Operations. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Why don't you give us just a background of kind of Key Bank's, not necessarily the origin story, but just kind of the operational state here in Michigan, your position with the company, and then we'll go around the table.
Sure. All right. Well, thanks again, Rob, for having us. Dave Mannarino, been with Key Bank about 3 years now, president and commercial sales leader for the state. We have about $4 billion of assets under management for the Key Bank Michigan operation. Key as a whole is about a $187 billion bank. So look at us as, kind of top 20 bank in the country. And Michigan is an absolute growth market for us, and very, very excited to be here with you today.
Excellent. Appreciate that.
Great. And I'm Kim Spinelli. I'm the local branch manager here at Key Bank. And I've been with the bank about 5 years now. I've been in the local community here in Brighton for over 20 years and just helping small businesses reach their goals.
Excellent.
I am Nikki Kolka. I am the area retail leader in Michigan. I was actually just received this promotion. I've been with Key for 7 years, and I get to partner with our branches and their branch teams.
Well, excellent. Well, congratulations on the promotion.
Thanks.
And the main topic on the docket today is banking and small business. As I mentioned to you guys in the pre-show, a lot of my friends are entrepreneurial in nature, business owners here in the downtown district and whatnot. And a lot of it is what should a relationship look like from a bank to a small business? And how does Key differentiate themselves in that relationship?
Yeah, so I think the key to that is
I see what you did
no
there.
pun intended.
I see what you did. I like it. Off to a good start.
That's off to a good start. Right? I think the real advantage though is one key. So when we go to market as one group. So a lot of other banks, they'll come in and say, I am your small business banker, or I am going to do the SBA loan for you. Mm-hmm. We go in as one group. So there's myself, there's Nikki, there's Kim. We have SBA specialists. We have small business specialists. We have wealth advisors. So we like to look at it as more of a journey. So where you are today isn't where you're going to be in 2 years or 5 years. And as your family grows, as your business grows, maybe you're looking for an exit. Maybe you're looking for an M&A target. We have all those capabilities. So the thing that I really like about Key and our approach to the market is we're really kind of a big bank, but we really act locally. So everyone around this table lives in Michigan. All of our decision making is in Michigan. Yeah. And the two pieces that we really pride ourselves on is being credible to the client and consistent. So if we come in and say, yes, we're going to be able to give you a $500,000 loan or $1 million loan, or we're going to be able to open this type of account or this type of service, we deliver on that. And that's something that we absolutely is in the core of Key Bank as a state. And really that's what they really kind of preach at the top of the house as well. So it's one of the main reasons why I joined Key 3 years ago from my previous shop.
Excellent. Anything else to add, ladies?
I think he summed it up pretty well, but I definitely think the fact that we're a relationship bank too, that we are, not only do we want to help your small business, we want to help you and your family, and then everyone, your friends, family, all of it.
Yeah, and I think Kim brings up a good point we were talking about a little bit earlier. She's been in the market, 20 plus years. I mean, she knows this community better than arguably any other bank in this market. She has access to the top of the house at this bank, where I think a lot of other banks don't have that same approach. It's very much based on an ROE model. So you have to have a certain amount of fee income to kind of talk through to the next level, or pricing, or products, or capabilities, or access within the bank. As where, at Key, it's because we go to market together, you have access all the way to the top of the house. So it's a very customizable approach to the market. Okay.
So Kim, on the branch level, when you have, obviously I'm sure you see a ton of different business owners and obviously consumers floating in and out. What is one or two things that stick out to you as a differentiator in how you guys manage relationships with business owners?
I would say that we try in the branches, we try and have some specialties where, I don't know, where the customer can come see me directly. Or we might have someone that is specializes in wealth, where they can go and approach that person. We all kind of know what each other does, but it's nice that we have that capability to service everyone.
That's excellent. Now, I know this has been a really interesting 2 to 3 years for business, obviously with the pandemic. All of the different SBA changes, obviously PPP. What was that like to navigate through? And without having to use the word chaotic, because I'm sure it's been absolutely wild, but it's really a two-part thing. So one, I know a lot of banks either did really well on the organizational front or some of them did not. And as coming out of it, I'm still convinced that business owners still need access to those things to help smooth it out. It's not like all of the revenue is back or the economy has been set straight. That's certainly not the case right now. So what was that like during the pandemic? And then two, what steps is Key making right now to ensure that business owners at least have access to resources or education that they may or may not need?
Yeah, well, if you see these gray hairs on the side, that's PPP right there.
Gotcha.
I think it was, for me, especially being fairly new to Key, it was a tough time because of all the uncertainty. So we had capital to lend. The thing that made it, I think, most difficult was the fact that the rules kept changing.
Sure.
So the Fed would come out and say, okay, here's the guidelines. So we would then communicate that to our clients and prospects in the community. And then all of a sudden the rules would change.
Yeah.
And so I think the banks that fared the best going through PPP and through the crisis are the ones that were nimble enough to adapt to those changes quickly. And so community banks, regional banks, banks like Key did well. I mean, we extended billions of dollars of PPP loans. So I think from that standpoint, being able to coach and hold the hand of the customer was the key. So a lot of other banks, I think, looked at it and said, well, here, fill out the application, put it in the portal, away you go. We had an ability to literally sit down with a lot of our clients and walk them through it and help them with the documentation, help them with the payroll documentation that was needed. But taking it a step further to say, this is how you need to utilize the funds. So you can't go out and buy a new boat. This is actually, these are earmarked for specific dollars have to go to specific categories. So I think we did a good job on that. I think some of the things that differentiate us now is really helping with the forgiveness side. So that wasn't an easy task. There's a whole separate process to get forgiveness from the Fed on those funds. So we worked very closely on that side. But then also those were lifelines for a lot of the companies that we bank. So now that they're emerging from those, not only the crisis, but really kind of taking their business to the next level, advising them on how to take their business to the next level. They're 3 years older, not only in the business cycle, but themselves. So should we bring in a wealth advisor now to start advising on where the business is going, how they're going to transition their business? And then also working with our capital markets teams to basically take it a step further and say, your business is worth more today. So let's put products in place that can help you scale your business even further than it has today. So
excellent.
And I think when we look at small businesses, I feel like COVID taught us that you need to be prepared in case of something like this. And I don't know that a lot of our small business owners were with technology, how to do banking outside of a branch when your bank isn't opening the doors, how to prepare yourself, have a line of credit in place when you don't need it in case of an emergency. So all of that was brought to light. And I think those are the conversations we're still continuing to have.
Yeah, education's been a big part of it. Is I think for a lot of people, when right up until the end of 2019, like the economy was in really good shape. Mm-hmm. It was kind of an unprecedented 7-year run, And when things are going that well, at least from my perspective, you don't stop and think, well, what could happen? What could just be around the corner? And unless you're Nostradamus, there's no way you're going to predict what was around the corner.
Right.
But the main thing is when you have so much going well, there's also a lot of value in hedging against that and saying, okay, so what about when things are not going so well? And I think the pandemic did open up a lot of people to that. So what have been, you mentioned having a line of credit, even if you're not going to tap it. What are some things that you guys have put in place or recommended different business owners do to hedge against having those problems or running out of cash?
Yeah, but one of the things that just comes top of the mind right off the bat is on our derivative products. So most of the small business owners that we have that have longer term debt, we talk to them about fixing that rate through an interest rate swap. So we issued and booked more interest rate swaps over the past 2 years than we have in a long, long time. And that was really good because now all of those clients are locked in, and the rate environment that we're going into, they're already almost doubled than what they were when we issued a lot of these swaps. So from that standpoint, it was good. The other thing that we did on the small business side, line of credit side, is if there was, let's say you had a $500,000 line of credit, there was always $250,000 on that line. We would carve that out, put it on a term loan on a fixed rate, longer amortization to help with the cash flow. The other thing, and then I'll turn the mic over, we have a product on the credit card side that allows us to put purchasing on a credit card. And that helps with cash flow as well. So it's those kind of products that we looked at to really kind of bridge the cash flow shortfall on a lot of these small businesses. So
excellent. I think a lot of business owners, especially when they're starting out, like there's so much you can do. Mm-hmm. You just don't know. And I think, at least from my experience, like when I started, this is now my second company, but even through both of those processes, like no one, and again, it's hard because you're dealing in volume, right? But it's so nice to have someone on your team that feels like they're a partner. They're strategizing with you. They're kind of in the highs and lows. And that is a rare thing to find in a bank because it can often seem so transactional.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you are so spot on. And that's the biggest compliment that we can get at Key Bank is we're a very, very entrepreneurial based bank. So it's very common for us to meet at a coffee shop and let's take a notepad and just start scaling out. What's the business look like today? Where do you want to take it to?
Yeah.
What are the steps that we need to go to get to that point? And I'd say all of the teams, whether it's retail, business banking, wealth management, middle market, our capital markets teams, we're all kind of in that Midwest mindset of, how do we really get granular? A lot of banks look at it really high level. Oh, you need a line of credit? Here's a line of credit. But very few take a couple more steps to say, well, why do you need it? Why is this the right number? Where do you want to take your business?
Sure.
And those are the questions that we put into our equation. And when I go back to that one key, that one team, that's when we can go back where Kim can call me and say, hey, look, this guy came in, he has this business, he wants to take it to this level. How do we do that? How do we strategize that together? That's what I love about Key is that we kind of take that local feel and really kind of take it to the next level. So,
and I feel like wherever your business is at, we're going to meet you. Whether it's the person just starting out or someone that has been in existence for 30 years and is at a different point, but we're going to be with you the whole way.
Yeah. I mean, we get a lot of referrals in from that too, where we'll have a small business owner that came in, we helped scale their business, help them along the way. And now they're saying to their friends, hey, talk to Key. They're not pushing product, they're pushing solutions to help you grow your business. Yeah. And I think that's just the ultimate compliment.
Yeah, one thing that's always been interesting to me about banking from a transactional perspective is all banks think long term, right? There's no like one short term deal. But what's interesting is sometimes the way the marketing portrays the bank is it is short term. Like, we just want you to get in here to sign up for this bank account. We have a toaster.
Yeah.
We have, we have this or that, right? And it's such a short term marketing play. It doesn't lend itself to the entrepreneur to think, wow, they're here for a long-term strategy. So on that, what is something, so let's say you have a brand new person. They just opened an EIN. They just started their LLC. What can Key do for a person that doesn't have a tax, has not filed tax returns for the business? Like, what would one of those strategies be?
Yeah, you want to take that one? Or
Well, no, go ahead, David. But basically SBA would be my first thought. But we also have like $1,800 incentive right now to help that business get established.
Can you explain more on that, the incentive?
We're just offering some cash to our, businesses that are just starting out, perhaps, where if they open a checking account, they'll get $500. If they open up the merchant, they'll get another, $300. It's not like the toaster that you're mentioning. But,
this is the this is the Chrome toaster.
Yeah.
It's got the 4 slice
Yes.
rather than the 2. I get it. That makes sense. That's nice.
So it's a whole package of incentive, and that we're building that relationship with the client. And I was talking to Dave a little earlier that what's nice about Key is that I have come across clients that when they had their entire relationship with us, they had obstacles. Might have been, a lending obstacle. And I was able to take it up the chain. And it was always, what's the relationship? And is it the right thing to do for our client? And we did it. So that was very different than my many years in banking previously. We would never do that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is the Key family. So if you open up an account with Key, you have access to Key Bank as a whole. So what really that means in English is, let's say you're starting a business, you have an EIN. This is more of a thought of how you're going to run it. If you talk to us about where you want to go, where you want the business to be in a year, how you feel this business is going to grow over time, we can align you with other resources within Key. So there might be someone in our portfolio that's in the exact same business that you're trying to build. We are absolutely comfortable getting you in touch with that person, that CEO, that CFO. And it's important that we have the dialogue around that. And that's what's so critical about these early meetings with new clients, of where do you see your vision and how can Key align with that vision for the long term. So you might say, hey, look, I want to start a certain type of business. I got the vision, I have the strategy, I understand it, but I'm really struggling with this certain type of equipment. I can't seem to find it. We might be able to say, hey, you know what? We have someone in the exact same industry. We don't know if it's a good fit or not, but we're willing to at least connect the dots and say, hey, how did you scale? How did you get your equipment? How did you deal with these supply chain issues that we're all facing right now? And that's a different approach.
It's tremendous.
So.
And from as you guys have continue on with those relationships, how frequent or how important are those checkpoints to see how well things are going? I'm sure at a branch level you guys see that from time to time. People saying, hey, it's year 5. What should I be doing next? Not that you guys are business coaches or anything, but just from a capital planning perspective, do you guys find yourselves having a lot of those meetings?
Yes. So you had mentioned that you saw our small business check-in. We send that out to our clients. We connect with them. We just say hello. I'm going to see if I can send you the small business check-in, see if things have changed. Is there anything that we need to do differently? We do that often. I can say often, about maybe once a quarter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, about quarterly.
Very good. One thing that you guys had mentioned in the pre-show that was interesting was you guys have, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said more of a customized lending process. Like, it's not like you have everyone has, standards, guidelines and whatnot. Sure. But it seems like there's a lot more customization that can happen based on certain variables. Are one of you three able to go into that a little bit more? I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I could take it, and then if you guys want to jump onto that. So because we take a one Key approach, we look at the holistic relationship. So it's not just the loan, it's not just a deposit, it's not just merchant, as Kim was alluding to one of the products. We look at it holistically. So if you're banking, if you have the entire relationship with Key, we have flexibility to work with you on structure, on rate, on just where can Key be the most impactful on the next phase of where you're going to. So whether it's talking about an interest rate swap or a line of credit or a credit card, we look at the pricing and the structure really kind of based on the whole holistic, longer term relationship. So it's not just, one product. So,
Nice.
I think you summed that up pretty well.
yeah, good for something,
We'll keep them.
But really it's a team approach. I mean, if Nikki and Kim call me and say, hey, look, we have this, it's a great client, we really need to lean in, they've done great things for the community. Their company's doing well. We need to do this or that. We'll do it. And, the other thing that I think it's worth mentioning is we align our philanthropic budgets to where our clients need us to be or want us to be. So if there's a cause that's important to a client, in this community, we should be aligning our resources to where we can help in the community because we're in the community. So if we're saying that we're part of it, we should be putting our dollars to use in those pieces that's important to the community. So,
and obviously people see that due to your relationship with the chamber as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And, taking the time to be on this podcast for our
this is
millions and
great.
millions of listeners. I really appreciate that. So I want to move into a bit of a lightning round, just kind of get to know you guys a little bit better. So if you can break out your tax returns from last year. So what I want to do is we have a segment on this show where I usually will ask the guest the same 3 questions. That format probably won't work because there's 3 people at the table today. But I do want to dive a little bit deeper into, obviously, the last couple of years from a banking perspective have probably been relatively stressful. You mentioned the gray hair, the Reed Richards look, as we call it. But I want to know from a hobby perspective, what do you guys do in your free time? What's one way that you typically will unwind or have some fun? And please don't say it's reading new SBA guidelines.
It's reading credit policy.
I will kick you out of the studio if you bring that in here.
I would say for me, personally, so I have a 3-year-old, and so I try to spend as much time as I can, with my daughter and my wife, and that really helps me disconnect. We bought a bouncy house, so we set up the bouncy house in the backyard, and
awesome.
That seems to be pretty fun for everyone. But I'd say in the winter, I love to ski. In the summer, it's everything from just going on walks with my family. We have a tradition of going to Camp Dearborn right over here in Milford, and go there every year. So that's kind of one of our highlight trips. We love doing that. But that's I feel like I should be doing more sports. I learned how to golf this year. I'm very late learning how to golf, so I'm horrible, but trying my best. So.
I just picked it up after about 10 years, and boy, am I terrible.
Yeah.
But it's fun though.
Yeah.
What I do is I have a daughter as well. I try and manage her music career, and love camping and love hanging out here in this community, connecting with people. I was at the chamber for the Jazz Fest and just seeing everyone downtown. It was exciting. It was fun, and so traveling, obviously. That's about it.
So my kids, I have twins that are in college. So my husband and I are empty nesters and kind of figured that out during COVID.
Okay.
But we've started going to concerts. So that is a hobby we had before we had kids. They became really active. We stopped going. Now we're going back to concerts. So I'd say that's pretty much what my hobby's been lately.
I'm trying to get Nikki to babysit so I can go to some concerts. She's not taking it.
She's got the empty nest. You got all the, just go to one less concert.
Yeah.
That's right, Nikki. Come on.
Right.
What's the last concert?
One
you
key.
I just went and saw Luke Bryan on Saturday.
Oh,
Very
that's
nice.
good.
You were there?
I was.
Oh, I was there too.
There's 20,000 people there.
I know,
It's
right?
crazy.
I know.
Yeah.
Did you find your car?
Well, I live in Conway Township, so that's right where all that's
Oh,
going
there you
down.
go.
Wow.
So that dominated not only, and I was gone. I was in Kentucky all weekend for that. Thankfully for the traffic and whatnot. It's
Got
the
it.
only time that township gets traffic. But it dominated the social media feed for a couple of days, and I was like, pretty much everyone and their brother and their cousin went to that.
And their banker.
Yeah,
And their banker. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We
Seemed
were
like a
selling
pretty
that
cool event.
$1,700 thing over there, right?
1800.
1800, yeah.
It's one of the giveaways.
Yeah, one of the giveaways, plus a toaster.
Yeah, it was inside the beach balls they were throwing around, kicked off of the stage.
That's right.
Oh, that's cool. Last question. So I'm going to say it and then I'm going to go into it so you guys have time to think. But favorite author is the question, and favorite book. It can be a part two if you'd like. I've been, one thing that I really encourage my team here is like, just because it rhymes, it also works, but the whole readers or leaders or readers thing, like I think that's super important. So I always encourage people to read, whether it's audio or text or whatnot, if you're actually going to break out the old fashioned book. But I always encourage reading because it gives a ton of different perspectives on a ton of different topics. And it's one of my favorite, you guys ever seen the movie Good Will Hunting?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of my favorite lines in that movie is he's in this bar with this guy who's basically making fun of his friend for not going to school. And he's like, you're going to realize, he's talking to the guy that went to Harvard, he's like, you're going to realize that you spent $150,000 on an education that you could have gotten for $4 in late charges from the public library. and that is just, and granted, that's not to minimize the importance of college, but there's such a vast amount of education that can come from things that we already have access to. So I always think about that line and how important it is. So all of that to say, your guys' favorite books / authors.
So I would probably answer that differently than most. I've been more impacted by reading everything that I possibly can off of Harvard Business Review and Bloomberg.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because I think it's not as static as reading a leadership book or reading a something to make you better, because the world is moving so fast, and the issues that face us today were different than 6 months ago, and they're going to be different in another 6 months. And I find that Harvard Business Review and Bloomberg are two that just are on the spot for me.
Sure.
And I'd say the one book, and probably going to laugh when I say this, Dr. Seuss, The Places You Will Go, I think is probably one of the truest books I've ever read for my daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bestseller around May or June every year. Everyone's aunt is getting them.
Whenever I read that, I'm like, there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a long road to graduate college for my undergrad, and my best friend gave me that book, and it truly did hit home. Yeah.
I hate to say it on a business podcast.
Right.
But,
no, it's and that's kind of thing. Like you can take 500 pages, and kind of to your point on the Harvard Business Review, is you can distill a topic without all the anecdotes and metaphors and flowery language. You can get it down into about 10 pages.
Yeah, and I think if you're consistently reading those publications, and for me, I listen to Tom Keene and Jonathan Farrow pretty much every morning on Bloomberg. Yeah, and I feel like I'm much more prepared to get into my day because they hit on all the points, and it's so relevant. They're already talking about what's going to happen potentially tomorrow, pros and cons, and it really helped me kind of navigate kind of through the crisis as well.
Yeah, I would say the local news, reading that daily is helpful. But in the past, I've really enjoyed reading the Gallup books. Believe it or not, and there's quite a few authors that I like. So
very good.
So I like to read to escape. So I'm more of a fictional reader. Yeah. And if you want to just hear what my favorite book of all time was The Godfather, Mario Puzo. Couldn't put it down.
Excellent choice.
Yeah. And, and honestly, it's just kind of how I relax. So
yeah, I read Stephen King's It every year. It's 1,100 pages. It's a
that's
monster.
A commitment.
It's so good though. Every time I read it, I learn something different. It's just a fantastic book. Yeah. But yeah, so that's excellent. And that's kind of the point, is like there's so many different ways to consume content, whether it's through a podcast, audiobook, the paper, journals. Like there's so many different ways, and there's no wrong way as long as you're actively pursuing it.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So last question, we'll kind of jump back over to Key Bank for a moment. One thing that you want the listeners to take away from today's podcast.
That we're absolutely open for business. We want your business. We can earn your business, and we're best in class.
Excellent.
What Dave just said.
I will use a cosign here. Ditto.
I will say, come into our branches. They will treat you like your family. I mean, you are going to get the best service ever.
Now, my family, or which family are we talking about here?
Very valid point.
The Key Bank family, right?
Yeah, we bolt down the chairs at our reunion, so I'm just curious, which family are we talking about? No, that's excellent though. And that's what you want. You want people to treat you extremely well. And that's kind of, you go to places and you can tell their culture is built around customer service. It's built around treating people well. And that does make a difference. You don't feel like just another transaction.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah. So excellent. Well, all three of you, thank you for your time today. I know y'all are super busy. There's a lot going on. And I appreciate you making the time to stop in and chat with me today.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. This has been great.
Thank you.
Good. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
That was fun.
Excellent. All right, guys, that'll wrap up this week's edition of the Chamber Podcast. Do yourself a favor, go to the show notes of the podcast and check out all of the relevant information on our guests today. If you can do me a favor, drop a review on Apple for the show. Let me know how I'm doing. 1 star, 5 star. I don't care. I can delete the ones that are bad. So I appreciate that. If you guys have any other questions, you can reach out to the Chamber. If you want to be a guest on the show, you can reach out to Julianne over there as well. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you on the next one. Take care.